In the vast expanse of the 10th galactic cycle, year 10-243, the Galactic Alliance had established itself as the preeminent governing body across 17 major star systems. The Alliance Peacekeepers, a highly trained, multi-species force equipped with technology that would make Earth's most advanced military apparatus look like children's toys, maintained order throughout known space. They were feared, respected, and above all, effective. Until they encountered human mothers. Captain Varric stood at the observation deck of the peacekeeper vessel Concordia, his dual-species heritage evident in the mottled pattern of his exoskeleton. Born of a Muscovan father and an LF mother, Varric embodied the best of both species, the analytical precision of the Muscova and the empathetic insight of the LF. His 4 eyes, too large and amber-colored, too small and obsidian, scanned the tactical display floating before him. "Captain, incoming transmission from Europa Base," announced Lieutenant Zek. A Dravak, whose translucent skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, indicating excitement. "Display," Varric ordered, his voice a harmonic dual-tone characteristic of his mixed heritage. The holographic image of Commander Zaltar, an Arcturan with metallic blue scales and 6 limbs, materialized. "Captain Varric, we have a situation. A biological curator's vessel has been detected entering the Sol system. Intelligence suggests they're targeting Earth children for their latest collection." Varric's secondary heart accelerated. The biological curators, a notorious criminal syndicate specializing in the trafficking of sentient species for display and auction, had recently developed an unhealthy fascination with humans, particularly their young. Despite being relatively new to the galactic community, humans had quickly become a subject of curiosity due to their extreme emotional variability and remarkable adaptability. "Understood, Commander. Coordinates transmitted to your nav system. Varric, proceed with caution. This is the 3rd incursion into Earth territory this cycle. The Alliance Council is concerned about diplomatic relations with the Terran government." Varric acknowledged with a formal gesture, touching his primary right hand to his central thorax. "We will resolve this with minimal disruption, Commander." As the transmission ended, Varric turned to his crew. "Set course for Earth. Maximum phase shift. Alert the tactical team." The Concordia slipped into phase shift, the stars elongating around them as they crossed light years in what felt like moments. When they emerged in Earth orbit, the ship's sensors immediately detected the curator's vessel hovering above a region identified as North American continent, Northern region. "Scan for abduction patterns," Varric ordered. Officer Trill, a Volnari with feathered appendages and remarkable sensory capabilities, manipulated the holographic interface. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple teleportation signatures. They've already begun collection operations. 23 human children have been transported to their vessel." Varric's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Establish containment field around their ship. Prepare boarding teams. I want those children recovered unharmed." What happened next would forever change Galactic Peacekeeper protocol. As the Peacekeepers moved to intercept, their sensors detected an anomalous energy signature rising from the planet's surface. A small vessel, primitive by Alliance standards, barely more than a reinforced atmospheric shuttle, was ascending rapidly toward the curator's ship. "Captain, the human vessel is broadcasting on all frequencies," Trill reported. "Audio only." "Let's hear it," Varric commanded. The voice that filled the command deck was unlike anything in the Peacekeepers' extensive threat database. It was female, human, and contained harmonic patterns that caused several crew members to instinctively back away from their stations. "This is Dr. Ella Wright. You have my son. You have 5 seconds to return him before I tear your ship apart with my bare hands." The translation algorithm struggled to capture the emotional resonance, but every being on the deck felt it. A primal, terrifying promise of violence that transcended species barriers. 4 seconds! Varric blinked all 4 eyes in confusion. The human vessel possessed no weapons capable of damaging a curator ship. Its approach vector was erratic, seemingly directed by emotion rather than tactical logic. And yet— 3 seconds. Captain, whispered his second-in-command, a Trellan named Mira, whose silicon-based biology rendered her usually unflappable. Something is wrong with my threat assessment subroutines. They keep categorizing this single human female as an extinction-level event. 2 seconds. Hail the curator vessel, Varric ordered quickly. Advise immediate compliance. 1. Before the communications officer could act, the human vessel did something impossibly reckless. It accelerated directly into the curator ship's phase shield, a defensive barrier that should have disintegrated the primitive craft instantly. Instead, the human vessel somehow modulated its fuel mixture to create a crude but effective phase-diverse bubble, punching through the shield and ramming directly into the curator ship's loading bay. The Peacekeeper crew watched in stunned silence as their sensors registered a single life form exiting the crashed vessel. The human female, Dr. Wright, was armed with nothing more sophisticated than a metal tube and what appeared to be a combustion-based projectile weapon. "Captain," Trill whispered, "should we intervene?" Before Varric could respond, the sensor displays lit up with alerts. The curator ship's internal security systems were failing in sequence. Atmosphere vented from multiple breaches, and the human life sign moved through the vessel with impossible speed, leaving a trail of incapacitated curator life signs in its wake. 17 minutes after Dr. Wright had issued her ultimatum, sensors detected 24 life forms, 23 children and 1 adult female, boarding the human vessel, which had somehow remained functional despite the collision. The curator ship, a marvel of criminal engineering worth more than some planetary economies, was left drifting, its systems critically damaged and its crew either unconscious or cowering in emergency shelters. "Track that vessel," Varric managed, his exoskeleton vibrating with disbelief. As they monitored the human craft's descent back to Earth, a final transmission came through. "This is Dr. Elelena Wright. Don't ever come near our children again. We're not like the other species you've encountered. We don't negotiate when it comes to our young. We don't follow rules. Consider this a friendly warning from all human parents. Next time, we won't be friendly." The message ended, leaving the command deck in profound silence. "Captain," Mira finally said, "I believe we have significantly underestimated the threat level posed by human parental units." Varric could only nod, all 4 eyes fixed on the sensor readings that should have been impossible. "Send a full report to command. We need to reassess our understanding of human psychology, immediately." Thus began what would later be known throughout the Alliance as the maternal deterrence doctrine. In the weeks following what Alliance bureaucracy designated the Wright Incident, Captain Varric found himself summoned to a special session of the Peacekeepers Strategic Command on Europa Base. The circular chamber, carved from the moon's ice and reinforced with metamaterials, housed representatives from all 17 member species of the Alliance. Commander Zaltar presided, his metallic scales reflecting the blue light that emanated from the chamber's walls. "Captain Varric, your report on the Terran incident has caused considerable concern among Council members. Is it your professional assessment that a single, unarmed human female neutralized an entire curator vessel?" Varric stood at attention, his dual-tone voice modulated for formal address. "Commander, with respect, Dr. Wright was not entirely unarmed. She possessed primitive weapons. However, these weapons cannot explain her ability to breach phase shields or disable systems that even our most advanced EMP technologies struggle to affect." "Then, how do you explain it?" demanded Delegate Zilvax, an Arcturan known for his skepticism regarding lesser technological species. Varric hesitated. The answer he'd arrived at after extensive research seemed almost mystical, unsuited for a strategic briefing. "The human demonstrated what I believe they call maternal rage. an evolutionary response triggered when their offspring are threatened. Our xenopsychology databases contain nothing comparable in intensity or effectiveness. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A Volnari delegate named Oriel, known for her expertise in comparative species psychology, leaned forward. "Captain, are you suggesting that emotional states can somehow overcome technological limitations?" "The evidence supports no other conclusion." Delegate, "We have reviewed the sensor data exhaustively. Dr. Wright's biological readings during the incident showed hormonal and neurochemical cascades that temporarily altered her physical capabilities. She was, for those 17 minutes, no longer operating within standard human parameters." Delegate Keats X, a senior Dravak diplomat, made a dismissive gesture with one translucent appendage. "Surely this is an isolated case. One exceptional human cannot represent a species-wide threat." Varric activated his personal datapad, projecting a series of images into the center of the chamber. "Respectfully, Delegate, our subsequent investigation suggests otherwise. These are historical records from Earth's datanet. In each case, a human parental unit, most commonly female, but not exclusively, performed feats of strength, endurance, or cognitive processing that defied their normal capabilities when their offspring were threatened. The images showed humans lifting crashed vehicles, fighting off predatory animals, navigating through impossible terrain, and performing emergency medical procedures without training, all to save their young. Most concerning, Varric continued, human parents appear capable of instantly forming collective response units without prior organization or communication. When multiple offspring are threatened, the response scale increases exponentially. Commander Zaltar's scales darkened, a sign of deep concern. "What are you suggesting, Captain?" "I am suggesting, Commander, that we develop new protocols for any operations involving human children. The curator incident could have escalated into a diplomatic catastrophe had Dr. Wright perceived the Peacekeepers as complicit or obstructive." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humans were already known to be unusually aggressive for a spacefaring species. Their rapid technological advancement driven by centuries of internal conflict. If they perceived the Alliance as a threat to their young— "Very well," Commander Zaltar finally said. "Captain Varric, you will work with Delegate Oriel to develop appropriate protocols for operations involving human offspring. But understand that this must be handled delicately. Humans have only recently joined the galactic community. We cannot appear to be singling them out as a species of concern." Varric bowed formally. "Understood, Commander." As the meeting adjourned, Delegate Oriel approached him, her feathered sensory appendages quivering with interest. "Captain, I believe we have much to discuss. The psychological implications of what you've observed are fascinating." "Fascinating is one word for it, Delegate," Varric replied. "Terrifying might be another." The Volnari's crystalline eyes sparkled. "In my experience, Captain, the most terrifying phenomena often yield the most valuable insights. Shall we begin our work?" Over the following months, Varric and Oriel collaborated closely, analyzing hundreds of incidents involving human parents protecting their young. They established a laboratory on Europa base where they could safely review case studies and develop response strategies. "The core problem," Oriel explained one day as they reviewed footage of a human mother fighting off multiple armed assailants to protect her child, "is that our species evolved very different parental instincts. Most Alliance species protect their young through systemic means: herd structures, communal care, technological safeguards. Humans combine all these with an individual override system that transforms them into what they colloquially call mama bears or papa wolves." Varric watched the footage with all four eyes. "This makes them unpredictable. Our tactical systems are designed to counter rational opponents who calculate risk and benefit. Human parents abandon such calculations entirely. Precisely, Oriel agreed, her feathers rippling with excitement. They enter a state where their own survival becomes secondary to their offspring's. It's biochemically similar to berserker states in some warrior cultures, but triggered specifically by threats to their young. How do we counter such a state, if necessary? Varric asked. Oriel's crystalline eyes dimmed thoughtfully. I'm not convinced we should try to counter it directly. Perhaps we need a deterrent approach instead. Something that signals to human parents that we understand their imperatives and are not opposing them. Before they could develop this concept further, an emergency alert sounded throughout Europa Base. Commander Zoltar's voice echoed through the facility. All senior personnel to the command center immediately. Operation Custodian is in progress and encountering unexpected resistance. Varric and Oriel exchanged alarmed glances. Operation Custodian was the first major peacekeeper intervention on Earth since the Wright incident. A coordinated action to rescue children from multiple species, including humans, who had been abducted by a splinter faction of the biological curators. When they reached the command center, chaos reigned. Tactical displays showed peacekeeper vessels surrounding a massive curator facility hidden in an asteroid belt near Mars. What should have been a straightforward containment operation had devolved into something far more complex. Status report, Commander Zoltar demanded, as Varric and Oriel entered. Sir, we've secured the facility's outer perimeter, reported the operations field commander via hologram. We've identified approximately 300 abducted juveniles inside, including 78 humans. But we've encountered complications. Explain these complications. Zoltar's scales had darkened to nearly black. Sir, 17 Earth vessels have appeared. They're civilian craft, retrofitted with makeshift weapons. They're demanding immediate access to the facility. When we attempted to establish a safety cordon, Sir, they're ramming our phase shields. Varric felt his exoskeleton grow cold. Commander, are there human parents aboard those vessels? According to our scans, yes. They appear to have tracked their children independently using, we're not entirely sure how, possibly personal genetic markers. Oriel stepped forward. Commander, with respect, this situation will escalate catastrophically unless we alter our approach. Those human parents will not be deterred by standard containment protocols. What do you suggest, Delegate? Zoltar asked, his voice tight with tension. Let them see that we are rescuing their children, not impeding them. Transparency is essential. Commander Zoltar considered this for a moment, then nodded. Field Commander, establish visual feeds to the human vessels. Show them our rescue operations in progress. Sir, we've tried. They're not responding to communication attempts. And, sir, they've somehow created a phase-diverse field around their vessels. Our containment measures are failing. Varric exchanged a significant look with Oriel. The right protocol, he said quietly. We haven't finished developing it, she responded. We have no choice. Commander. Varric addressed Zoltar formally. I request permission to implement emergency protocol, Right Alpha 1. Zoltar's secondary breathing slits flared in surprise. That protocol hasn't been officially sanctioned. Neither has allowing 17 vessels piloted by enraged human parents to breach our perimeter and potentially compromise a delicate hostage extraction. Varric countered. Commander, we must act now. After a tense moment, Zoltar nodded. Proceed, Captain, but you will bear full responsibility for the outcome. Understood. Varric opened a channel to the field commander. Commander, urgent new protocol. Transmit to all vessels the following image on maximum broadcast spectrum. He transferred a file from his personal datapad to the command system. On the tactical display, they watched as the image was transmitted to all vessels in the operation zone, peacekeeper and human alike. It was a simple holographic representation, a human female, arms outstretched protectively, with a universal translation caption that read, "We are protecting your children. We are not your enemy." The effect was immediate and astonishing. The human vessels, which had been executing increasingly erratic and dangerous maneuvers, suddenly stabilized. Communications channels, previously filled with threats and demands, fell silent. "They're waiting," the field commander reported, disbelief evident in his voice. "Sir, the human vessels have taken up station-keeping positions. They appear to be allowing us to proceed." Oriel's feathers rippled with excitement. It worked. The symbolic representation of maternal protection communicated our intentions more effectively than any tactical language. Commander Zaltar's scales gradually lightened as the operation proceeded without further incident. The Peacekeepers successfully extracted all abducted children, returning them to their respective homeworlds. The human parents, once assured their children were safe, cooperated fully with Alliance protocols. In the operation's aftermath, Varric found himself once again before the Alliance Council, but this time in a very different context. "Captain Varric," began High Counselor Zhen, a Trellin whose silicon-based form shimmered with ceremonial pigments. "Your improvised implementation of what you've termed the right protocol has been reviewed extensively by this council. While unorthodox, its effectiveness cannot be denied." Varric stood at attention, Oriel beside him as co-developer of the protocol. "Thank you, High Counselor." "However," continued Zilvax, the skeptical Arcturan, "some council members remain concerned about the implications. Are we to understand that you propose all peacekeeper operations involving humans should now include displaying images of human mothers?" "Not exactly, Counselor," Varric replied carefully. "What we propose is a multi-tiered approach. The maternal imagery serves as a universal signal that we understand and respect human parental imperatives. It's a de-escalation tool, not our primary strategy." Oriel stepped forward. "Our research indicates that human parents respond to symbolic reassurance that their young are being protected in a manner they evolutionarily recognize. The imagery bypasses their rational faculties and speaks directly to their protective instincts." "It seems undignified," muttered Keatsax. "The Alliance Peacekeepers, reduced to displaying images to pacify emotional humans." "With respect, Counselor," Varric responded, his dual-tone voice firm. "Dignity is irrelevant compared to effectiveness. One human parent in a state of maternal rage has been demonstrated capable of neutralizing technology centuries beyond their development level. Multiply that by potentially millions of parents if a large-scale incident involving human children were to occur." The council chamber fell silent as members contemplated this scenario. Finally, High Counselor Zhen spoke. "The council will approve implementation of the right protocol on a provisional basis. Captain Varric, you and Delegate Oriel will oversee its refinement and training procedures. All Peacekeeper units operating in or near human space will be required to carry appropriate maternal imagery and receive specialized training in human parental psychology." "Thank you, High Counselor," Varric and Oriel responded in unison. As they exited the council chamber, Oriel's feathers rippled with satisfaction. "A significant victory, Captain. Though I suspect implementation will present its own challenges." Varric nodded, his four eyes blinking in sequence, a gesture of thoughtful consideration. "Indeed. And I believe we've only begun to understand the implications of human parental psychology. There's much more research to be done. Perhaps," Oriel suggested, "we should consult Dr. Wright herself. After all, she was the original inspiration." Varric's mandibles clicked in what passed for a Muscovine elf smile. "An excellent suggestion, Delegate. Though I confess, the prospect is somewhat intimidating." The meeting with Dr. Elena Wright took place at a neutral location, a human scientific outpost on Luna that served as a liaison point between Earth and the Alliance. Varric and Oriel arrived early, both feeling uncharacteristically nervous. Dr. Wright entered the conference room precisely on time. She was tall for a human female, with dark skin, closely cropped hair, and eyes that seemed to evaluate everything with scientific precision. Nothing in her calm, professional demeanor suggested the berserker who had single-handedly crippled a criminal vessel to rescue her child. "Captain Varric, Delegate Oriel," she greeted them, extending a hand in the human custom. "I understand you're developing protocols based on my incident with the curators." Varric carefully took her hand, mindful of the strength differential between his exoskeleton and human bones. "Dr. Wright, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Your insights would be invaluable." They settled around the conference table, and Oriel activated a holographic display showing their research. "Dr. Wright, we've been studying what humans call maternal rage, as a phenomenon with significant implications for interspecies relations. Your case provided the most comprehensive data, given the sensor readings from the Peacekeeper vessel that observed your rescue operation." Dr. Wright's expression remained professional, but Varric noticed a subtle change in her posture, a tensing that his training identified as protective. "I should clarify that what happened wasn't a phenomenon to be studied. It was simply what any parent would do. My son was taken. I got him back. That's precisely what fascinates us," Oriel continued, her feathers quivering with scientific excitement. "The normalization of what, to non-human species, represents an extraordinary override of both rational thought and physical limitations. Dr. Wright, our scans showed you lifting objects weighing over 3 times your body mass, navigating complex systems without prior knowledge, and sustaining injuries that should have been incapacitating. When your child is in danger," Wright replied simply, "you don't feel pain. You don't calculate odds. You just act." Varric leaned forward. "Doctor, we've implemented a protocol using maternal imagery to diffuse potential conflicts with human parents in rescue operations. It's been effective, but we believe it could be refined with your input." Wright's eyes narrowed slightly. "You're using pictures of mothers to calm down parents?" "In essence, yes," Oriel confirmed. "The symbolic representation communicates that we understand their imperative to protect their young, and that we are aligned with that goal, not opposing it." To their surprise, Dr. Wright laughed, a sound that seemed to contain genuine amusement rather than derision. "I'm sorry. It's just, there's something wonderfully absurd about advanced alien peacekeepers carrying around pictures of human moms like some kind of supernatural ward." Varric's mandibles clicked in confusion. "You find the protocol humorous?" "A little," Wright admitted, "but also appropriate. You've essentially recognized that a mother protecting her child is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. So powerful that even showing an image of it affects behavior." She paused, her expression growing more serious. "Though I should point out, it's not just mothers. Any parent or caregiver will react similarly when their child is threatened." "Our research has noted this," Oriel confirmed, "though the statistical intensity does show variations based on several factors. Biological maternity does correlate with the most extreme responses." Wright nodded. "That makes sense evolutionarily. But I'd recommend your imagery include diverse representations of protective caregivers. Fathers, grandparents, adoptive parents. Humans form complex care networks." "An excellent suggestion," Varric noted, making annotations in his datapad. "Dr. Wright, would you be willing to assist us in creating these representative images, and perhaps in training Peacekeeper personnel to better understand human protective responses?" Wright considered this for a moment. "On one condition. This protocol isn't just about preventing human parents from interfering with your operations. It needs to be about actually protecting children more effectively. If I help you, I want a commitment that the Alliance will prioritize child safety across all species." Varric and Oriel exchanged glances. That would require council approval, Varric began. Then get it, Wright interrupted, her voice taking on just a hint of the steel that had terrified the curator vessel. Because if you're going to use the image of a protective parent as your shield, you'd better be worthy of it. In that moment, Varric understood with perfect clarity why the curator criminals had surrendered so quickly. I will personally advocate for this expansion of the protocol. Dr. Wright, you have my word. Good, she replied, her expression softening. Then yes, I'll help you. And I'll try not to laugh too much at the idea of elite alien soldiers carrying pictures of angry moms for protection. In the months that followed, the Wright protocol evolved from an emergency measure into a comprehensive approach to operations involving children of any species. Dr. Wright worked closely with Varric and Oriel, helping to create training programs that taught peacekeepers to recognize and respect the unique protective instincts of each member species. For human-specific operations, all peacekeeper units now carried holographic projectors containing what became colloquially known as the Mother Array, a diverse collection of images showing human caregivers in protective stances, with translations in multiple languages explaining peacekeeper intentions. The protocol's effectiveness was tested sooner than expected when intelligence identified a major biological curator's operation targeting multiple species young across 3 star systems. The criminal syndicate, having suffered significant losses after the Wright incident, had reorganized under new leadership with an even more ambitious collection plan. Captain Varric, now promoted to Commander of Special Operations, coordinated the Alliance response from the command vessel Custodian Prime, named in recognition of the Peacekeepers' expanded child protection mandate. Tactical assessment, Varric requested, as his command team assembled in the vessel's strategic center. Officer Trill, who had served with Varric since the Wright incident and now specialized in multi-species threat assessment, manipulated the holographic display. The curators have established a central processing facility here, in the asteroid belt of the Proxima system. Our intelligence suggests they've already collected approximately 500 juveniles from 12 species, including 143 humans. Varric's mandibles clicked in concern. If that many human children were involved, the potential for parental intervention was extreme. Delegate Oriel, assessment of parental response probability? Oriel, now permanently assigned to Varric's command as Chief Xenopsychology Officer, consulted her data. Human parental units have already mobilized. Commander, we're tracking 62 vessels departing Earth space, all following independent tracking methods to locate their offspring. Additionally, parents from the Dravak, Volnari, and Trellin homeworlds have requested Alliance assistance in mounting their own rescue operations. The difference being, noted Varric's second-in-command Mira, that those species are requesting assistance rather than launching improvised armadas. Different evolutionary strategies, Oriel explained, no less committed to their young, but expressed through collective rather than individual action. Varric studied the tactical display. Our primary objective is the safe recovery of all abducted juveniles. Our secondary objective is to apprehend the curator leadership. Implement Wright Protocol Alpha 3 across all operations. I want continuous broadcasting of appropriate parental imagery on all approach vectors likely to encounter human vessels. As the Custodian Prime and its support vessels entered the Proxima system, sensors detected the human parental fleet already engaged in preliminary maneuvers around the asteroid belt. Unlike the previous encounter, these vessels appeared better organized and more tactically positioned, suggesting they had either received military advice or had learned from previous rescue attempts. Open communications, Varric ordered. All frequencies, Wright protocol prioritization. The communications officer, a young Arcturan named Zex, activated the system. Channel open, Commander. Varric spoke clearly, knowing his words would be translated for human comprehension. Attention human vessels. This is Commander Varric of the Alliance Peacekeepers. We understand you are here to rescue your children. We share this mission. We are implementing a coordinated extraction operation and request your cooperation to ensure all children are recovered safely." There was a tense pause before a response came through. A human male voice, taut, with controlled emotion. "This is Captain Michael Chen of the Earth Parental Response Collective. We acknowledge your presence, Peacekeeper vessel. But understand this. We will retrieve our children with or without your assistance. We will not be delayed by bureaucratic protocols while our children remain in danger." Varric signaled to Oriel, who activated the right protocol broadcast. The holographic projections deployed from the Peacekeeper vessels, creating a visible perimeter of maternal imagery surrounding their operational zone. "Captain Chen, we respect your imperative to protect your young. The Peacekeepers have adopted the right protocol specifically to honor this instinct. We ask not for delay, but for coordination. Our vessels have capabilities yours do not. Together, we can ensure all children are recovered without casualty." Another pause. Longer this time. Varric could almost feel the human parents' conflict, their desperate need to act immediately versus the tactical advantage of cooperation. "We're sending you our operational plan," Chen finally responded. "You have 10 minutes to integrate your capabilities, or we proceed independently." "Acknowledged," Varric replied, relieved that the protocol had at least opened the door to cooperation. "Tactical. Analyze their plan immediately." Officer Trill's appendages flew over the holographic interface. "Receiving now, Commander. It's surprisingly sophisticated. They've mapped the entire asteroid field, identified multiple entry points, and even calculated shield harmonics for the curator facility." Mira leaned over to examine the plan. "How did they acquire this level of intelligence? The facility was only located by our deep cover operatives 3 days ago. Never underestimate the information-gathering capabilities of desperate parents," Oriel observed. "Particularly humans, who appear to form instantaneous cooperation networks when their young are threatened." Varric studied the human plan with growing respect. It's tactically sound, if somewhat reckless in its final extraction phase. Tactical. Integrate our capabilities into their framework. Emphasize our superior shielding and teleportation technology for the extraction itself. Within the allotted 10 minutes, a joint operational plan was developed and transmitted back to the human fleet. To Varric's relief, Captain Chen's response was immediate. "Plan accepted. We will follow your lead on the extraction phase if you follow ours on the approach and containment." "Agreed," Varric confirmed. "Operation commences in 30 minutes. Synchronize all systems." What followed was one of the most unusual joint operations in Alliance history. The human vessels, despite their technological inferiority, executed a brilliant diversionary strategy, creating electromagnetic disturbances throughout the asteroid field that confused the curator's sensor systems. Meanwhile, Peacekeeper vessels approached from calculated blind spots, their advanced stealth technology rendering them virtually undetectable. The operation proceeded smoothly until the final phase, when the combined fleet had surrounded the curator facility and prepared for extraction. Suddenly, alarm signals blared across the Custodian Prime's command deck. "Commander!" Trill called urgently. "The curator facility is activating a phase shift drive. They're attempting to relocate the entire installation." "Block it!" Varric ordered. "Full spectrum phase interference." "Attempting, sir. But their drive configuration is non-standard. Our countermeasures are only partially effective. They'll complete phase shift in approximately 3 minutes." Before Varric could issue further orders, the communication system activated again. "Peacekeeper vessel, this is Captain Chen. We're detecting the phase shift attempt. Can your technology prevent it?" "We're implementing countermeasures," Varric replied honestly. "But full prevention is uncertain." There was a brief silence. Then, "We're sending you a frequency pattern. Implement it through your interference array immediately." Oriel's feathers rippled with alarm. "Commander, Accepting technical assistance from a non-alliance species violates Protocol 17. Protocol overridden by right mandate, Varric decided instantly. Tactical. Implement the human frequency pattern. As the pattern was integrated into the Peacekeepers' interference array, an extraordinary thing happened. The Curator facility's phase shift drive, which had been steadily building toward activation, suddenly destabilized. Alarms across the Custodian Prime indicated a cascading failure throughout the Curator systems. "How is this possible?" Mira whispered, her silicon-based structure vibrating with astonishment. "The frequency pattern," Trill analyzed. "It's exploiting a harmonic vulnerability in their drive configuration that our systems wouldn't have identified for another 72 seconds. Too late to prevent shift." "Extraction window established," Varric announced, pushing aside his own amazement to focus on the mission. "All vessels, implement teleportation protocols now. Priority on juvenile recovery." The combined fleet executed the extraction with precision, born of desperation. Peacekeeper teleportation technology, guided by the tactical map provided by the human parents, located and extracted every abducted child within 17 minutes. A new record for an operation of this scale. As the last group of children materialized in the Custodian Prime's secure medical bay, Varric received a direct communication from Captain Chen. The human's face appeared on the command screen. His expression, a complex mixture of exhaustion and fierce satisfaction. "Commander Varric, all Earth children are accounted for. Your teleportation technology is impressive. I acknowledge that our operation would have been significantly more dangerous without your assistance." Varric bowed slightly, a gesture of respect he had learned from Dr. Wright. "And I acknowledge, Captain Chen, that without your tactical approach and the frequency pattern you provided, we might have lost the facility entirely. This was a true collaboration." Chen's expression softened, almost imperceptibly. "The right protocol. It's more than just images, isn't it? It's about understanding that some imperatives transcend species differences." "Precisely," Varric agreed. "The protection of the young is perhaps the most universal of all such imperatives, though expressed differently across cultures." "Well," Chen said with what humans called a smile, "you've earned the respect of Earth's parents today, Commander. That's not an easy achievement. Nor is corralling a fleet of 62 independently operated vessels into a coherent tactical force. Captain, I believe there is much our species can continue to learn from each other." After the successful joint operation at Proxima, the Alliance Council convened an emergency session to review both the expanded Right Protocol and the unprecedented cooperation with human parental units. The chamber was filled beyond capacity, with representatives from all member species in attendance. High Counselor Jen opened the proceedings with formal acknowledgement of the operation's success. 512 juveniles recovered, 0 casualties, and the apprehension of the entire Curator leadership. By any metric, an exemplary outcome. Delegate Zilvax, who had been skeptical of the Right Protocol from its inception, spoke next. "While I cannot dispute the results, I remain concerned about the operational implications. Commander Varric not only implemented an expanded protocol without full Council approval, but accepted tactical and technical assistance from non-Alliance humans. These actions set troubling precedents." Varric, standing at the chamber's center with Oriel and Dr. Wright, who had been invited as a special consultant, addressed the concern directly. "Counselor, with respect, the Right Protocol is specifically designed to create flexibility in operations involving children. The parents of those children possess motivation and often information that our standard intelligence channels cannot match. Leveraging this, rather than opposing it, multiplies our effectiveness." Dr. Wright stepped forward. "If I may, Counselor, what you're witnessing is simply the recognition of a universal truth. Those with the strongest emotional investment in an outcome will often find ways to achieve it that more detached observers would never consider. The right protocol doesn't subvert Alliance authority. It enhances it by channeling parental determination rather than fighting against it. Keats X, the Dravak delegate, who had also initially opposed the protocol, surprised the chamber by rising in support. My own offspring were among those recovered at Proxima. Had the operation proceeded according to standard Alliance protocols, the curator facility would have completed its phase shift before extraction was possible. I find myself grateful for the human parents' intervention and Commander Varick's willingness to incorporate their approach. Murmurs spread through the chamber as other council members whose species' children had been rescued added their support. Even Zilvax's opposition seemed to waver in the face of such testimonials. High Counselor Jen raised a limb for silence. It appears that the expanded right protocol has demonstrated its value beyond initial projections. I propose formal ratification of the protocol as standard procedure for all operations involving juveniles of any species. Further, I propose the establishment of a specialized division within the Peacekeepers dedicated to child protection and recovery, with Commander Varick as its first director. The vote was nearly unanimous, with only 3 delegates abstaining and none opposing. As the chamber emptied, following the historic decision, Varick found himself approached by Delegate Zilvax. The Arcturan scales had shifted to a conciliatory blue-green. "Commander," Zilvax began, his voice lower than the formal tones he used in council. "I owe you an apology. I believed your focus on human parental psychology represented a dangerous fixation on a minor species' peculiarities. I was wrong." Varick touched his primary right hand to his central thorax in formal acknowledgement. "No apology is necessary, Counselor. The protocol's implications required thorough examination from all perspectives." "Nevertheless," Zilvax continued, "I would like to contribute to your new division. The Arcturan Science Guild has developed advanced, non-invasive monitoring technology that could help track juvenile movements across interstellar distances. Perhaps this would assist in preventing abductions before they occur." "A most welcome contribution, Counselor," Varick replied, genuinely pleased by the offer. "Prevention is indeed preferable to rescue, however successful." As Zilvax departed, Oriel approached with Dr. Wright. The human scientist had become a regular consultant to the Peacekeepers since the Proxima operation, dividing her time between Earth and Europa base. "It appears," Oriel observed, her feathers rippling with satisfaction, "that your mother's instinct for protecting her son has evolved into protection for all children across the galaxy. An impressive exponential expansion." Dr. Wright smiled. "That's how it works. Delegate, you start by protecting your own. Then you realize all children deserve the same fierce defense." "Commander Varick," a young Peacekeeper cadet interrupted, approaching with formal deference. "The new insignia for the Child Protection Division has been finalized. Would you like to review it?" Varick nodded, and the cadet activated a holographic display. The insignia featured the silhouette of an adult figure of indeterminate species, with arms outstretched protectively around a smaller figure. Around this central image were the symbols of all 17 Alliance member species, arranged in a protective circle. "Perfect," Varick approved. "Distribute to all division personnel immediately." As the cadet departed, Dr. Wright studied the insignia thoughtfully. "You know, Commander, the most amusing part of all this is that somewhere, across the galaxy, there are probably criminal elements warning each other about the terrible Alliance peacekeepers who carry pictures of human mothers as weapons." Varick's mandibles clicked in what had become his version of a human chuckle. "I believe you're right, Doctor, and I find I'm entirely comfortable with that reputation." 1 year after the formation of the Child Protection Division, Captain Varick stood on the observation deck of the newest Peacekeeper vessel, the Guardian Prime. The ship represented the pinnacle of Alliance technology, specifically designed for rapid response to child abduction or endangerment scenarios across known space. Beside him stood Oriel, now Chief Xenopsychology Officer for the entire Peacekeeper force, and Dr. Wright, whose consultancy had evolved into a permanent position as human liaison to the Alliance. "Impressive, isn't it?" Oriel remarked, her feathers rippling in the subtle patterns that indicated pride. The first vessel in Alliance history designed with child recovery as its primary function, rather than as a subset of general peacekeeping. Varric nodded, all four eyes taking in the ship's sleek lines and advanced systems. More impressive is what it represents. A fundamental shift in Alliance priorities. And all because one mother got very, very angry, Dr. Wright added with a smile. Not just angry, Varric corrected gently. Determined, ingenious, unstoppable. Qualities we've learned to recognize and respect across all species. A young lieutenant approached, saluting with precise formality. "Commander, pre-launch checks are complete. The Guardian Prime is ready for its maiden voyage." "Thank you, Lieutenant," Varric acknowledged. "Set course for the ceremonial review position. The Alliance Council will be watching from Europa Base." As the lieutenant departed, Dr. Wright turned to Varric with a thoughtful expression. "You know, Commander, when I rammed my ship into that curator vessel, I wasn't thinking about galactic politics or interspecies protocols. I was just trying to get my son back." "I know," Varric replied. "That purity of purpose is what made your actions so powerful and so instructive. You showed us that sometimes the most straightforward approach is also the most effective." The Guardian Prime glided smoothly out of its docking bay, its engines barely whispering despite the enormous power they contained. As it took up position for the ceremonial review, holographic projectors activated along its hull, displaying the now famous images of protective parents from all Alliance species. "It's come a long way from just pictures of angry human mothers," Oriel observed. "Yes," Varric agreed. "But the principle remains the same. We acknowledge the primal force of parental protection and work with it rather than against it." As the vessel completed its ceremonial pass, Varric received a transmission from High Counselor Zhen. "Commander, the Council extends its formal recognition of the Guardian Prime and the Child Protection Division. You have transformed what began as a crisis response into one of the Alliance's most valued initiatives." "Thank you, High Counselor," Varric responded, "though the true credit belongs to the parents whose determination inspired our approach." After the transmission ended, Varric turned to his companions. "I've been authorized to inform you that the Council has approved expansion of the division. 3 more Guardian-class vessels will be commissioned within the year, allowing us to maintain rapid response capability across all major sectors." Dr. Wright nodded in satisfaction. "That's excellent news, though I hope they'll rarely be needed." "As do I," Varric agreed. "Our preventive measures have already reduced abduction attempts by 73%. Criminal syndicates have learned that targeting children, of any species, brings consequences they cannot evade." As they stood watching the stars, a comfortable silence fell between them. 3 beings from vastly different evolutionary backgrounds, united by a shared commitment to protecting the most vulnerable. Finally, Dr. Wright spoke again. "You know what still makes me laugh, though? The fact that somewhere out there, the most feared thing in a criminal's life isn't advanced weapons or impenetrable shields. It's the thought of an angry mom coming after them." Varric's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Indeed. And now they fear not just human mothers, but the combined protective instincts of 17 species. 18 soon," Oriel added. "The Phalosians' application for Alliance membership has entered final review." "And do Phalosian parents have their own version of maternal rage?" Wright asked curiously. "Oh, yes." Oriel's feathers rippled with scientific enthusiasm. "They develop temporary photonic distortion fields when their offspring are threatened. Quite spectacular, actually." "Well then," Wright said with a smile. We'll need to add their images to the array. Can't have the criminals thinking they've found a safe species to target. As the Guardian Prime completed its ceremonial orbit and prepared to begin its first official patrol, Varric looked at the holographic maternal images displayed across its hull. What had begun as an emergency measure had evolved into a symbol recognized throughout known space, a warning to those who would prey on the young and a promise to those who needed protection. Somewhere, he knew, criminal syndicates were briefing their operatives. Avoid any targets with children, and if you see an image of a human mother, retreat immediately. It's not worth it. And somewhere else, parents of all species slept a little easier, knowing that their most fundamental instinct, to protect their young at any cost, had been recognized, respected, and incorporated into the very fabric of galactic peacekeeping. All because one human mother had refused to accept that superior technology meant her child was beyond her reach. Varric touched his hand to the nearest holographic display, an image of Dr. Wright herself, arms outstretched protectively. The most powerful deterrent in the known galaxy wasn't a weapon at all. It was a parent's love.